Hey, welcome to Star Trek Nitpickers, everybody. So today we are doing a live stream, something that I haven't done in a while. And I just wanted to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 5. But yeah, I do want to talk about Deep Space Nine as well. I've got this great book that I haven't really looked at all that much, but there's a lot of really great behind the scenes information in here on, well, obviously Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and my main man, Captain Picard of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Anyways, guys, yes, I haven't really done a live stream by myself at all, but yeah, let's just dive into it. I wanted to kind of run through every episode of season 5, or I don't know, maybe I'll kind of take too long and just do a couple from the beginning. But yeah, let's start out with Redemption Part 2. You guys know that Redemption Part 2 obviously focuses on Worf, and one of the interesting things about this episode is Gene Roddenberry was kind of against it. He didn't really think that the show should focus on Worf. He sort of saw Worf as more of a background character. And, to be fair, it was kind of a revolutionary idea to have a Klingon on the show as a good guy at all. So I guess, we have to try to understand that he just didn't see Worf as a real big part of the show, even though, of course, his name is in the opening credits. So, Michael Dorn was actually a big Star Trek fan. He was a fan of the original series, and there, were a lot of reasons to let him have more of more screen time than he was getting. And, he ended up being in Star Trek 6 and, of course, Deep Space Nine. But Redemption Part 2 is a really great episode. This is where we get to meet Sela and Denise Crosby's return. She actually, Sela kind of shows up earlier, but this is where she really kind of gets to strut her stuff for the first time and come out center stage. So this is a great episode, a great way to kick off this amazing season. Now, one of the things about this season that is really interesting is this is when Jerry Taylor joined the show, and she's the woman who co-created Star Trek Voyager. Now, this whole season is full of episodes that she either wrote or co-wrote or oversaw the writing of, basically. And so let's just move on now to the second episode, A Crowd Pleaser, Darmok. This is, of course, a great episode. Oh, of course, I was going to try to rate all of these. We got to save 10 for like the best of the best. I'm not even sure what 10 would be, but let's just say Darmok's like 7.5. And one of the interesting things about this episode is it was completely rewritten. It actually started out totally different, and it was only the word Darmok that uh, ended up being in the original pitch and also in the final version. It was just something about that word. I'm not quite sure who wrote this one, but it got into their head. I think it must have been Ronald D. Moore, I want to say. Let me look it up real quick here. But yeah, Darmok is one of those amazing episodes. This is the one where we have the alien species beam Picard and their captain down to this planet and fight this invisible monster. And it sort of looks like a Triceratops man. They did a lot of work to make this thing look as cool as it does. And yeah, this is one of those really well-known episodes. I've got the action figure of the captain, the Dathon captain, and this is the one where they basically learn that these other people speak in phrases. So what's the main thing that the guy's saying? Jalad by the river or something. I can't quite remember at the moment, but you get the idea. They don't speak just in words, but in patches of story and stuff like that, pieces of legend. And this was, of course, picked up. They had one of these characters on Lower Decks. So yeah, let's see if I can just find the information about who wrote this episode or rewrote it. Oh, it was originally Joe Manosky. No, yeah, Joe Manosky wrote this one, and it was Philip Lazebnik who pitched the idea. But Joe Manosky just got this word Darmok stuck in his head, and he just kept thinking about it until this completely different story evolved, basically. Now, Joe Manosky went on to write for a lot of other Star Trek, but he also he worked for the Orville. I almost said Star Trek Orville, but yeah, no, he was a writer for the Orville along with Brandon Braga, who wrote a bunch of episodes for the fifth season here as well. So, yeah, let's see. Moving right along here, what was the next episode? It looks like it was the Ensign Row episode. Now, this was a pretty interesting episode. We really get to find out a lot about the Bajorans. I think this is the one that introduces the Bajorans and Ensign Row. And they, of course, really wanted Michelle Forbes to be a regular on the show, but she didn't want to get pinned down and be a regular on anything at that point. And she definitely didn't want to get typecast the way that she felt that people on Star Trek got typecast. This is a little bit like the guy that they wanted to play Riker, Billy Campbell, I want to say. He basically turned the role down. He didn't actually officially. He just did such a bad job with the audition because he was so distracted by thinking about how he didn't actually want to be a regular on a show, because at that point in his career he was flying all over the world kind of starring in movies and stuff. So Ensign Rowe is a great episode, and I'm just gonna give it like a six, I guess, because it's not really like the best episode ever, but we find out about the Cardassian border and how the Bajorans were mistreated by the Cardassians, and we see Picard kind of opening his mind and being able to see through Ensign Rowe's eyes. So this is a good episode, definitely worth checking out. This one's written by Michael Piller, who of course is the guy who came on to TNG with the third season and is sort of credited with helping the show take a new direction and really become the great show that it ended up becoming. Anyways, so I guess this pretty much was his idea. It says the story is by him and Rick Berman. Rick Berman, of course, is the guy who sort of became the head of all things Star Trek for a long time. Gene Roddenberry basically passed the torch to him. And Rick Berman really did a great job. No matter what you think about Star Trek's ups and downs, you have to realize that while this guy, Rick Berman, was in charge, he did a lot of quality control. And, he had a lot of hard decisions to make, and he had to make them quickly a lot of the time. And the fact that he actually did as much writing and as much good writing as he did is pretty cool. Not that he actually wrote many episodes, but we've got another one on the list that he did write coming up for season 5 here. Let's just move along. All right. Now we have Silicon Avatar, the one with the crystalline entity that, of course, killed Data's whole world, the world where Data was found. This is the one that revisits that. Basically, it was written because the writer felt that they needed to revisit that, and it was Jerry Taylor who wrote this one, but the story was actually Lawrence V. Conley, and this was directed by Cliff Bole, who directed a lot of Star Trek. This one is visually pretty interesting, getting to see the Silicon Avatar. Getting to see the crystalline entity attack the people on the planet. And this one is an interesting one because it deals with this old woman who had her son killed by the crystalline entity. And there are some weird things with Data basically doing her kid's voice and having the memories of her kid, and she sort of starts to see Data as her kid. and she's a respected scientist and everything, but by the end of the episode, she sort of flushed that down the toilet. And this is not really the best episode. I'm gonna give this one a five, maybe five and a half. I do like this episode. I don't have major problems with it. But I know that a lot of the people who worked on this one weren't really satisfied with it. If you look at what the producers actually have to say about it, they didn't feel like it quite came together as well as they thought it was going to. So, anyways, let's move on here, guys. And now we've got Disaster, season 5, episode 5. Now, this is the one where we have Picard going around with these kids who won this competition in these ridiculous ways with these ridiculous science projects. And so he's supposed to be showing these two little boys and this little girl around the ship on a special tour when a disaster strikes, and he's got to kind of keep their spirits up. And of course, we know that he's not really fond of children. But this is season 5, and this is Jerry Taylor taking over, and we're starting more and more to see a new side of Picard where he is giving kids a chance at least. And it's really a great episode, I think, because we do really see how he comes to be a hero to these kids and to lead them in a way that he doesn't usually lead people. He has to use his imagination and get them to use their imagination and to pretend. And it's a little bit like that movie, It's a Beautiful Life, It's a Wonderful Life. You know the one that I mean. Anyways, let's see. I guess I'll give this episode a 6.5, maybe a 7. We have some funny stuff. This is the one where Worf has to help Keiko give birth in 10 Forward, as I recall. And so that's really pretty funny stuff. This one is by Ronald D. Moore, who is known for writing some of the funnier stuff. Ronald D. Moore went on to do a lot of other shows. He did this show recently about people in outer space, but it was not at all like Star Trek. Let's see, what was it called? It was on Amazon. I didn't actually see it. Uh, one step, one giant leap, something like that. Anyways, so yeah, Disaster was a great episode. Now let's keep moving here. All right, so the game. This is a great one where the people, everybody is wearing something over their eyes and playing a video game. And this one was inspired by the writer finding out that kids were basically getting addicted to video games. But this is way back in the 90s, the early. And one of the great things about this episode is that it's got Wesley having, I think it's his second girlfriend. Anyways, she's played by somebody famous. I'm trying to remember the name, but I can't. Oh yeah, let's see, Robin Leffler. Always thought that was a weird name, but she's famous. Judd, right? Wasn't that her? Ashley Judd. Yes, Ashley Judd played Wesley's girlfriend in this episode, and I think it's a pretty good episode. It's kind of a funny one, but it's really sort of a scary one too. The stakes are pretty high with these aliens potentially taking over all of Starfleet at the end. Picard tells him that, hey, we're going to give him to Starfleet Academy. And, they're just like, all right, yeah, great. We're going to take over the whole Alpha Quadrant, basically. So it's another one where Wesley saves the day. And I guess that might, that happens a lot. It's true. But Wesley hasn't been in the show much at this point. So this is a fun one because he comes back and he gets to have this whole crazy episode that's really a lot like excuse me, it's a bit like the Pod People and that movie that Leonard Nimoy is in. Anyways, guys, so Yeah, this is a great episode, the game. We have everybody slowly getting addicted, and it's great the way that we find out when Wesley goes to tell Picard about it. Picard's like, "Oh yes, okay, I'll take this very seriously. I can see I've got to do something about this or whatever." And then Wesley leaves, and Picard just puts the game on and goes into the zone, I guess you could call it, guys. And I don't know if we've got anybody in the zone right now, but hopefully people can enjoy this a little bit later on. But anyways, yeah, I did want to talk about this book too a little bit, so maybe we'll just do that now. Let's see here. Star Trek action. So yeah, they've got a lot of cool behind the scenes stuff here. We've got a great picture. This is actually Rick Berman right here, and Tuvok, and let's see, and Lemuel Perry, and Rick Colby's frequent jokes are being enjoyed on the set here. Oh, all right, sorry guys, that's not Rick Berman, that's Lemuel Perry. Anyways, and then that's a stand-in. That guy in the back there. I thought maybe that was LeVar Burton for a second. He's all blurry. But no, that's a stand-in, and that's why he's wearing a Nike shirt. Well, I knew he wasn't in costume, but I thought maybe he was the director. Anyways, here we can see how they shot some of this stuff with Janeway, and let's see, that's a portion of the soundtrack needs to be looped. It says so. Yeah, we've got the Dauntless here. Looks kind of like something out of Star Wars, I gotta say. But yeah, the Dauntless was after developing the Dauntless model in a nondescript white, the visual effects team made several color choices, their favorites being in the copper family. Let's see here. We have Ducat standing over Jadzia Dax. Sort of a sad one. Yeah, more sad Jadzia Dax stuff. All right, here we've got Jonathan West supervises the lighting setup for part of scene 83. Kind of a cool picture. Doesn't come out too well on the camera, sorry guys. Let's see. All right, so here's some cool stuff. You can see them filming Deep Space Nine. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting to think about how they had to do all of this stuff in the 90's versus how they're doing it now, which I guess is a good segue into talking about some of the Star Trek news that's going on nowadays. Yeah, we have a lot of Star Trek news right now. We've got the merger. Basically, Star Trek is owned by Paramount and it's been bought. So now we have new people in charge, and it's interesting to see what they say they're doing. They're trying to do a more holistic approach to Star Trek, they say. So they have some people developing a movie which is going to basically reboot the whole franchise. And it's going to be interesting to see. Probably that'll have new characters and a whole new ship potentially. I'd imagine it will be the Enterprise. Personally, I think it'll probably be the Enterprise G, but that's just my guess. That's just my little theory. Nobody really has any way of knowing. And yeah, it's interesting to think. A lot of people are rooting for this Archer show right now, but there's really a good chance that none of the characters that we know will ever be getting new official Star Trek content. Um, I mean, it's possible, of course, anything is possible, but it seems like they're basically going to be doing a new movie, which probably won't come out until 2028. And then they will be having shows that kind of, you know, stream out of that movie that branch off from that. And they'll be basically rebooting the whole thing because it's kind of not doing as well as it could be doing, the way that it's been going. And, basically, they're trying to figure out a new direction for it. And so even though we do have the Starfleet Academy show coming out in just a couple of days, it's kind of DOA, dead on arrival, because we know that they're totally taking the franchise in a different direction. And all of those streaming Paramount Plus shows are basically kaput. So it's going to be interesting to see what they cook up. It's a big deal, really, because it's going to be the relaunch, the whole new direction. It's got to have good characters, and it's being written by the guys that wrote the Dungeons and Dragons film. They also did this Spider-Man Homecoming, as well as a bunch of other movies that you might know, like Game Night and Horrible Bosses 1 and 2, and the incredible Burt Wonderstone. So they do a lot of comedy. The one guy actually started out as an actor, a child actor, and he was on that show Bones. But anyways, guys, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they cook up, and it's really, it better be good because everybody is gonna be waiting impatiently to see, what they got for us. Anyways, guys, here's just a few more cool pictures, some some artwork that they were doing for. Well, let's see. I think this might have been Insurrection. Let's see. Think that we shouldn't be monetized for reasons that are just mysterious as I keep trying to do the right thing. And I'm still trying, guys. And I'm going to keep trying because I love talking about Star Trek and bringing good Star Trek content to the people. Trying to get better at doing it. And, hopefully I'll get better at live streaming. I've got some big plans for it, but I just kind of wanted to jump in and do a little something, something here. So, anyways, I hope everybody is doing well, live long and prosper, and Kapla.